So the question is, when did I start yoga, and who was my first teacher? So I started when I said to myself, this is the time, I'm going to commit myself to yoga, and that was in early 1979, maybe March, just after Shivaratri. And I was very blessed to find Darby Joyce. I feel that the universe led me to him. I just arrived in Mysore, said now I'm ready to start yoga. Where's the teacher? And I was introduced to Darby Joyce, and he became my teacher. And I ended up by staying with him for the next 4 or 5 years. So the next 4 or 5 years I stayed in Mysore and practiced with him. And later I went back, quite often going back and visiting him to practice again, to get his teachings, to get his guidance. So, question 1. Question is, what posture did I struggle with the most? And I guess it was to do with the knees. Anything with the knees became a problem. I had to struggle with. I went through an injury there, so that's why it was a problem. Everything else was, there was its hindrances at the beginning, the difficulties, but with practice everything started to come about, and so it was just time. But the knees is the one which gave me the biggest problem, but eventually it sorted itself out as well. It's amazing, the body. Okay, question 2. So question is, what are the qualities of a good teacher? First off, the teacher should be a good practitioner, which means he's still learning, he's still searching. He should impart the knowledge that he understands, not just what he's heard. Make sure he understands what he's teaching. Be more of a guide. Don't force somebody to do something. And have patience with your students. So don't try and adjust a student who's not ready for something. Let them develop it, yet encourage them to do more. So you should be there to be a guide and encourage your students to improve. In the way of being a guide, you've got to assist them, to develop them to practice in the correct way. So make sure they're not going to injure themselves, and definitely don't you injure them. So I'm sure there's many more things, but that's just a few of the qualities that you need to have. Patience, be willing to learn, be willing to teach what you know. Okay, hopefully that helps you. So next is, what are the qualities of a good practitioner or a practitioner? First, I believe it's perseverance. You need to practice. Without practice, nothing will happen. So you have to practice. So that's going to take dedication, willpower. So it does take willpower to do it every day. And the more you practice, the more consistent you practice, the quicker you'll improve. Do it with dedication. And lose your ego. That's probably one of the hardest things to be and lose, is the ego. You've got to lose that. So dedicate everything you're doing to a higher power. And simple as that. Just work deeply. Don't rush. Don't hurt yourself. So back off a little bit. So that's your ego working. So back off a little and see how that works. So what is the biggest change in my teaching? And I mentioned a little earlier that when I was first teaching, I knew Darby Joyce. So the only teaching I had was from him, and so I taught the way he taught me, which is what I told you to do. Teach what you know, and that's what I knew, but it was incorrect method. So add that to the other thing about being a good teacher. Make sure you have correct method. So first thing I did many years later, after being a terrible teacher, I started to study with other teachers and learn adjustments and worked with other people, learnt from them, worked with students. That was another great teaching experience, is to teach and you learn from teaching. So that's something else. The biggest change that's happened is when I started to understand the connective tissue in the body, understanding the connection of all the body, both internally, which is prana moving through the body, and the connection of the body, which combined. And so now my teaching is very little pushing. It's just leading the student, teaching them how to move themselves, trying to work with. Okay, I'll give you another skiff of an answer, because I just read the questions. If I hadn't become a yoga teacher, what would I have become? And, oh, that would have been hell. That would have been horrible. You know, I was working, before I was teaching yoga, in the garment industry for women's clothing. And this was a tough job. This was stress. And if I'd kept it up, I would have just killed myself. I would have just worn myself out. It wasn't the best things to do in life. So thank God that I started to teach yoga and develop that part of myself, and develop that lifestyle. So much better. So I would have been a mess. So thank goodness I'm not doing anything else. But you know, maybe I would have made surfboards. I don't know. I did a few jobs, but like I said, thank goodness I started to teach yoga. So the next question was to describe in 5 words what yoga is. It's impossible to do that, actually, to describe yoga in 5 words, but I'll do the best I can, even though the meaning of the words has many ramifications. So let's give you 5 words. So, self-study, surrender, balance, dedication, and compassion. That's 5 words, but there's many more words, and the meanings of those words can be quite profound. Self-study is what happened when was why I started to do yoga. I was searching to find out why I'm here. You know, who is running this organization, this world, this universe, who's doing that. So this is self-inquiry, self-study. Surrender is, again, acknowledging that there is this higher power, this great being, or whatever it is, great entity, that there is something there, but you can surrender everything you do, and understand that is what's running it, and you have no control